There is a strange quiet that follows a decision, the decision to stop. You don't announce it. There is no final dramatic message. It's a change that happens first in the body, the hand that hovers over the phone and then pulls back. The deep breath you take instead of typing out a long, explanatory paragraph that you know deep down will not be fully read. The energy you use to send outwards, in a constant stream of questions, check-ins, and reassurances, suddenly has nowhere to go. It pools inside you, and at first, it feels like anxiety. It feels like a hum of static beneath the skin. For so long, your presence was a given. You were the one who bridged the silences, who initiated the plans, who remembered the small details. You were available, not just in your time, but in your emotional space. You held a room open for him in your mind, constantly furnished with thoughts, worries, and hopes concerning him. You were the reliable landscape, the backdrop against which his own life could play out. And the most painful part was not the lack of reciprocity. It was the slow, dawning realization that your constant availability had made you invisible. Your presence had become so expected, it was no longer perceived. Like the air in a room, you were essential but unnoticed, until you weren't there anymore. This is not about playing a game. This is not a tactic learned from a magazine. This is about a profound, soul-level exhaustion. It's the moment a woman finally understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup, and that she has been trying to fill his, while hers has been gathering dust on a shelf. The moment she stops being available is not a move in a chess game. It is the end of the game itself. It is a quiet, personal revolution. And it changes everything, not because it's a strategy to get him back, but because it's a strategy to get herself back. The dynamic you were in had a name, an unwritten contract. You were the emotional caretaker. Your role was to tend to the connection, to keep it warm, to ensure it survived his periods of distance or ambiguity. You were the keeper of the flame. And in this role, you wore a specific mask, what the psychologist Carl Jung would call a persona. The persona is the face we show the world. It's the socially acceptable version of ourselves. For you, it was likely the persona of the cool girl, the understanding woman, the low-maintenance partner. This persona is patient. She doesn't make demands. She accepts last-minute plans and vague answers. She tells herself she is being mature, flexible, and evolved. She prides herself on not being needy. But beneath this capable, smiling mask, a debt was accumulating. Every time you suppressed a need, swallowed a disappointment, or initiated contact when you longed to be pursued, you were making a small withdrawal from your own life force. The persona was keeping the peace externally, but it was waging a quiet war on your own soul. The part of you that craved reciprocity, that needed to feel chosen and cherished, was being silenced. This silenced part is what Jung calls the shadow. Your shadow wasn't dark or evil. It was simply the repository of all your unmet, unexpressed, and disowned needs. It held your frustration, your longing, your anger at being taken for granted. And the more you perfected the persona of the understanding woman, the heavier and more potent your shadow became. You could feel it in moments of quiet resentment, in the flicker of bitterness when you saw another couple showing mutual affection, in the inexplicable sadness that would wash over you late at night. Being constantly available was the job of the persona. It was the performance required to keep the relationship, or the situationship, alive. You were running the entire emotional infrastructure of the connection. You were the power grid. So what happens when the power grid shuts down? At first, he may not notice, just as you don't notice the electricity in your home until the lights go out. He is accustomed to the ambient warmth of your attention. His phone is accustomed to the light of your name appearing. His ego is accustomed to the subtle validation of knowing you were there, thinking of him, waiting. The first stage of your withdrawal is often met with nothing, a profound silence. And this is the first great test, because your mind, conditioned by the old pattern, will interpret this silence as proof of your worst fear, that you never mattered at all. The ego will scream, "See? He doesn't even care. You were a fool." This is the moment most people break. They rush back in to fill the silence, to restore the connection, to prove the ego wrong. They send the "just checking in" text, and in doing so, they turn the power back on, and the old, draining dynamic resumes. But if you can hold your nerve, if you can sit in that uncomfortable silence and soothe the panicked parts of yourself, something else begins to happen. The silence stops being empty. It starts to accumulate weight. His day continues, but a small, familiar input is missing. The good morning text he had come to expect is not there. The question about his day doesn't arrive. There is no story, no meme, no little offering of connection sent his way. A space that was once filled with your energy is now a blank. Initially, his ego might feel a sense of relief or freedom. The subtle pressure is off. But the human psyche abhors a vacuum. The space you occupied in his life, and more importantly, in his mind, was not just any space. It was the space of the feminine, of connection, of emotional resonance. You were, without him even knowing it, doing a kind of psychological work for him. You were holding the emotional thread. When that thread is dropped, he is left holding his end, alone. And he may not even know what it is he's holding. He just feels a subtle sense of offness, a dissonance. The background music of his life has stopped, and he is only now beginning to notice he was listening to it at all. This is where the dynamic begins to invert. When you were constantly available, your energy was diffuse, cheap, and taken for granted. You were chasing him, and he, naturally, was in a position of power, able to retreat or engage at his leisure. The moment you stop, the moment you pull your energy back into yourself, you create a vacuum, and psychologically, a vacuum creates pull. Your absence begins to speak louder than your presence ever did. He is no longer reacting to your messages, he is reacting to the lack of them. He is no longer navigating your questions, he is navigating the questions that arise in his own mind in the silence. Is she okay? Is she mad at me? And then, the more unsettling question for his ego, has she met someone else? Has she moved on? Suddenly, you are no longer a predictable commodity. You have become a mystery, and the human mind, especially the male ego, is often intrigued by a mystery it cannot solve. He has lost the map. The familiar territory of your availability has been replaced by an unknown landscape. This is not a manipulation. This is a law of psychological physics. What we chase retreats. What we withdraw from often follows, if only out of curiosity or a desire to restore the comfortable status quo. But the deeper mechanism at play here is what Carl Jung called projection. In the early stages of any intense connection, we are not really seeing the other person clearly. We are seeing our own unconscious needs and ideals projected onto them. A woman often projects her animus, her own inner masculine archetype, representing her ideals of strength, decisiveness, and purpose onto a man. She sees in him the hero, the protector, the one who will complete her story. She falls in love with this projection, this image of potential that she has painted over the real man. A man, in turn, often projects his anima, his own inner feminine archetype, the carrier of his feelings, his soul, his capacity for relatedness, onto a woman. He unconsciously seeks in her the nurturing, the acceptance, the emotional container that he may lack within himself. He sees her as the source of a warmth and a life that he doesn't know how to generate on his own. In the dynamic of the overgiving woman and the distant man, a very specific projection is at work. She has projected her animus onto him, believing he has the strength and commitment she desires, if only she can coax it out of him. And he has projected a mothering aspect of his anima onto her. He sees her as the endlessly patient, forgiving, and available source of comfort. She is the one who will always be there, who will manage the emotional world for him. When you were constantly available, you were perfectly feeding this projection. You were playing the role of the archetypal mother, the one whose love is unconditional and whose presence is constant. You were confirming his unconscious belief that he did not need to actively work for connection, that it would simply be provided for him. The moment you withdraw, you shatter the projection. You are no longer playing the part, the screen goes blank, and for the first time, he is forced to confront two deeply uncomfortable realities. First, he is forced to confront you as a separate, real person, a person with her own limits, her own needs, and her own life, a life that is now, apparently, continuing without his input. He can no longer see you as just a reflection of his needs. The mirror has turned into a window, showing a world he is not a part of. This is a shock to the ego. The sense of control, however subtle, is lost. Second, and far more profoundly, he is forced to confront the part of himself that he had outsourced to you. The need for connection, for emotional warmth, for validation. These feelings no longer have an external manager. They bounce back to him. The silence you create externally becomes an internal noise for him. He is left alone with his own anima, his own undeveloped capacity for feeling and relatedness. His reaction to this moment is incredibly revealing. It is a litmus test of his psychological maturity. If his ego is fragile and his anima is deeply unconscious, he may react with anger or blame. He might send a passive-aggressive message, accusing you of playing games or being cold. This is his ego trying to force you back into the old, comfortable role. He is essentially saying, "How dare you stop mothering me? Get back to your job." Or he might quickly try to find a replacement. He will seek out another woman to fill the void, someone who is willing to take on the role of emotional caretaker that you have just abdicated. This is a flight from the discomfort of self-reflection. But if there is a measure of depth in him, if his anima is not entirely dormant, your withdrawal will trigger a different, more complex response. It will trigger confusion. It will trigger introspection. He will start replaying conversations, re-examining your interactions, trying to understand when and how the dynamic shifted. He is, for the first time, doing the emotional work that you were doing all along. He might not reach out immediately. His own ego and pride are now on the line, but you will occupy a significant amount of his mental real estate. You have gone from being the chaser to being the one who is contemplated. The power dynamic has not just shifted, it is fundamentally inverted. He is now the one in a state of uncertainty, wondering about your feelings, your life, your next move. He may start to feel a strange, unfamiliar sense of respect for you. The woman who was once so predictable and easy to manage has revealed a core of strength and self-possession that he did not see before. Because he couldn't see it, your constant availability was hiding your self-worth. Your withdrawal is what reveals it. This is the critical turning point, not just for him, but for you. Because as all of this is potentially happening in his psyche, the real transformation is happening in yours. The first few days or weeks of your withdrawal are the hardest. You are detoxing from a powerful addiction, the addiction to seeking validation externally. Your body is still wired for the old pattern. You will feel the phantom itch to check his social media, to ask a mutual friend about him, to send a message. This is the withdrawal from the role of the caretaker. If this experience is naming something you have felt but never been able to put into words, take a moment to acknowledge that. This recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your power. To survive this period, you must turn all the energy you were sending to him back towards yourself. This is not just a platitude, it is a concrete practice. Every time you feel the urge to check on him, check in with yourself instead. What are you feeling? Is it anxiety, loneliness, fear? Sit with that feeling. Breathe into it. Don't run from it. That feeling is your shadow, the part of you that you abandoned while you were busy taking care of him. Now is the time to welcome it home. This is the work of integrating your animus. For so long, you projected your animus, your inner source of strength, action, and authority, onto him. You were waiting for him to be the decisive one, the one who would claim you, the one who would give your story its direction. By withdrawing and holding your center, you are taking your animus back. You are becoming your own source of authority. You are deciding what is acceptable for you. You are setting a boundary, not with words, but with your very energy. You are saying, "My peace is more important than this connection. My dignity is not for sale." This is a profound act of individuation, the Jungian term for becoming a whole, integrated individual. You are separating your identity from his reaction to you. You are no longer a satellite orbiting his planet. You are reclaiming your own center of gravity. Imagine there was an empty chair in your life, a chair you were desperately trying to get him to sit in. You decorated it for him, kept it warm, and spent all your time trying to lure him towards it. The moment you stop being available, you turn your attention away from that chair. You find your own seat, and you discover, to your astonishment, that your own seat is a throne. It was always there, waiting for you. From this throne, your perspective changes. The question is no longer, when will he text? The question becomes, if he were to text, what would he find? He would not find the anxious, waiting woman he left behind. He would not find the ever-available emotional caretaker. He would find a woman who is occupied with her own life, her own joy, her own purpose. He would find a woman whose energy is contained within herself, making it potent, magnetic, and valuable. He would find a woman who is no longer looking for a man to complete her, because she is busy completing herself. If he does return, he will have to approach you differently. He cannot simply slide back into the old, comfortable dynamic. The role you used to play has been discontinued. The position is no longer vacant. He will have to show up as an equal, ready to invest, ready to build, ready to meet you in a new space of mutual respect. He will have to earn a place in the world you are now building for yourself. And this is the most beautiful and terrifying part of the process. As you become more whole, you may find that he no longer fits. The man who was attractive to the wounded, overgiving version of you may hold no appeal for the sovereign, integrated woman you are becoming. His ambiguity, which once seemed mysterious, may now just look like a lack of character. His inconsistency, which you once tolerated, may now feel deeply disrespectful to the peace you have cultivated. This is the true meaning of detaching from the outcome. The goal is not to make him come back. The goal is to get to a place where it no longer matters whether he comes back or not. Because you have come back. You have come home to yourself. The silence that once felt like a punishment now feels like peace. The solitude that once felt like loneliness now feels like freedom. You have stopped looking for your value in the reflection of someone else's eyes, and have found it in the depths of your own soul. This journey is not easy. It requires you to walk through the fire of your own fears. The fear of abandonment, the fear of being alone, the fear of being forgotten. But on the other side of that fire is not a man waiting to reward you for your trial. On the other side of that fire is you, whole, calm, and unshakable. You will realize that the greatest love story is not the one where he finally realizes your worth. It is the one where you finally realize your own. You stopped being available to him, so you could finally become available to yourself. And that is a change that no man can give you, and no man can ever take away. My silence is not a weapon. It is my homecoming. And this homecoming is not a silent, empty house. It is a house that is slowly, deliberately being refurnished with your own essence. The energy that once leaked out towards him, seeking, questioning, and pleading, is now the very resource you use to rebuild your inner world. This is where the work moves from the psychological to the somatic, to the very memory held within your cells. For months, or perhaps years, your body learned a posture of anticipation, the slight forward lean, the shallow breath held while waiting for a reply, the tension in your jaw as you reread a vague message, trying to decipher its meaning. Your nervous system was calibrated to a state of high alert, a low-grade but persistent fight-or-flight response. This is the body memory of unrequited emotional labor. It's stored in the tightness of your shoulders, the knot in your stomach, the fatigue that no amount of sleep could ever truly cure. As you commit to your own silence, as you hold your center through the initial storm of anxiety, your body begins to exhale. It might be a literal, shuddering exhale you weren't even aware you were holding. You might notice your shoulders dropping an inch away from your ears. You might find yourself taking a full, deep belly breath for the first time in months. This is your nervous system beginning to down-regulate. It is learning, on a cellular level, that the threat has passed. The threat was not him leaving. The threat was you abandoning yourself. Now that you are present, your body can finally stand down from its post. This is the deeper layer of shadow work. It is not just a mental exercise. It is a physical reclamation. The anger you felt, which your persona labeled as crazy or dramatic, you can now feel in your body as pure, clean energy. It is the life force of your inner protector, the part of you that was screaming, "This is not right, you deserve more." By allowing yourself to feel this anger without judgment, you are not becoming an angry person. You are integrating its power. You are reclaiming the part of your own spirit that knows how to say no. The sadness, which you may have mistaken for weakness, can now be experienced as a gentle, cleansing grief. It is grief for the time lost. It is grief for the woman who tried so hard and received so little. By allowing this grief to move through you, you are honoring her. You are tenderly holding the younger version of yourself and saying, "I am here now. I will not let you be treated that way again. This is not self-pity. It is profound self-compassion. It is the act of reparenting yourself. As this inner alchemy proceeds, you will begin to notice concrete signs of change, small miracles in your daily life. Your internal monologue, which may have been a relentless critic, will soften. When you make a mistake, instead of hearing, "You're so stupid," you might hear a gentler voice. "That's okay. What did we learn?" You are integrating the compassionate mother within, the counterpart to the fierce protector. You will find a strange new sweetness in solitude. A Saturday evening with no plans will no longer feel like a confirmation of your loneliness, but a luxurious expanse of time that is entirely your own. You might pick up a dusty paintbrush, go for a long walk without your phone, or simply sit by a window and watch the world go by, feeling a sense of peace that you once thought could only come from another person's presence. You are discovering that you are, in fact, excellent company. Your attraction patterns will begin to shift. The man whose unavailability felt like a thrilling challenge might now register in your system as simply tiring. His inconsistent communication will no longer seem mysterious, but disrespectful. His emotional distance will no longer feel like something to conquer, but a clear sign of incompatibility. Your newly calibrated nervous system, now attuned to peace, will physically recoil from chaos. You are developing what we might call energetic immunity to dynamics that drain you. This is the landscape he will encounter if and when he decides to break the silence. And his approach will be the final, practical test of your transformation. It will likely not be a straightforward apology. It will be a test of your new boundaries. The first test is often the nostalgia probe. He might send a text late at night with a photo from a time you were happy, or a message saying, "Heard our song today." This is a low-effort attempt to pull you back into the shared emotional bubble of the past, to trigger the feeling of connection without doing any of the work required in the present. The old you would have felt a rush of hope, replying instantly, "I remember that. I miss that." The new you, the woman on her throne, feels the memory but is not captured by it. She might reply with a simple, "A nice memory," or not reply at all. She acknowledges the past without stepping back into it. The door to the past is closed. If that fails, he might try the vague future projection. This sounds like, "We have to catch up soon," or "I've been meaning to call you." This is a tactic to secure your future availability, to put you back on the waiting list without making a concrete, vulnerable offer. It's a way of checking if you are still orbiting him. The old you would have said, "I'd love that. I'm free Tuesday or Thursday." The new you understands that her time is precious. She might reply, "My schedule is quite full, but let me know if you have a specific day and plan in mind." The responsibility for initiating, planning, and pursuing is placed firmly back on him, where it belongs. The most potent of all is the crisis test. He might reach out with a problem, trouble at work, a conflict with his family, seeking your unique brand of soothing, caretaking energy. He is unconsciously trying to reactivate your role as his emotional manager. This is the ultimate test of your integration. The old you would have dropped everything to help, to offer advice, to become his strategist and cheerleader. The new you can feel compassion without feeling responsibility. She can say, "I'm sorry to hear you're going through that. I trust you have the strength to handle it." It is a statement of both empathy and profound faith in his own capability. You are no longer his rescuer. You are a witness to his own journey. By passing these tests, not by being cold, but by being clear and centered, you are not just showing him your new reality, you are solidifying it for yourself. Each time you honor your own peace over his comfort, the throne you sit upon becomes more solid. And what of him? Witnessing this quiet, unshakable strength in you can be the catalyst for his own profound journey, if he is willing. To truly meet you in this new space, he cannot just change his tactics, he must change himself. He must begin his own descent. He must face the void you left behind. And, instead of immediately trying to fill it, ask why it's there. He must begin the difficult work of integrating his own anima, learning to generate his own warmth, to sit with his own feelings, to be the source of his own validation. This is his path of individuation. It is arduous, and it is his alone to walk. You are not the goal at the end of his journey. Your own wholeness was simply the signpost that showed him he had a journey to begin. Whether he embarks on that path or not ceases to be the central plot of your life. Your transformation creates ripples that extend far beyond him. Your friendships deepen because you now engage from a place of fullness, not need. Your work may flourish because the energy you once spent on emotional anxiety is now freed up for creativity and focus. You walk through the world differently. Your presence has a new weight, a new stillness. You are no longer a question mark, seeking an answer from the outside world. You have become the answer itself. This journey of returning to yourself is the ultimate act of faith. It is the belief that your own soul is a worthy home. It is the radical act of choosing your own peace over the promise of a love that costs you that peace. You did not lose him. You outgrew the space he occupied. And in its place, you have cultivated a garden. And now you are free. Free to enjoy the beauty of your own creation, and free to decide who, if anyone, is worthy of being invited in.